Okay, there we are. Wait, is it recording?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Hello, I'm excited to share with you about animal conservation and why it's important. Everyone really likes to go to the zoo and see all the wild animals, but no one really stops to think about why those animals are there and how they landed there. Animal conservation is important to me because it ensures the future of species that are threatened and endangered for future generations to enjoy, and it's also important in interrelationships between humans and those species. In my speech, I will inform the audience on what animal conservation is, what causes the need for animal conservation, the positive effects, and what an individual can do to get involved in animal conservation. Today, I will be discussing three main concepts. First, I will give a brief overview of what animal conservation is. Secondly, I will discuss how it affects our culture and myself. And finally, I will discuss how animal conservation affects our future. First, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what animal conservation is. Animal conservation is the partnership of civic organizations and on-the-ground conservation programs to protect and support the continuation of wildlife. This includes direct rescues, rehabilitation centers, animal wildlife habitats, really anything that's encompassed by those. When animals are rescued and they cannot be sent back into the wild, one goal of animal conservation is to ensure that they are in environments that are closely mirrored to what they would be in natural circumstances. Animal conservation is also the protection and provision of the best quality care to animals that are being conserved. When they're conserved, they'll either be in the wild, in zoos, aquariums, and like I said, any kind of rescue or rehabilitation center. Much of this work integrates education as a huge key concept, because through education, people will learn what not to do in order to prevent those circumstances. Examples of this include city zoos, animal rescues, rehabilitation centers, like I've said. All of the previously mentioned have hand-on experience, but they also focus, like I said, on education. A really good example of this is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, also known as the AZA. The AZA, according to their website, they use cooperative management with over 500 AZA accredited organizations to work with conservation specialists to create management strategies. They compile best practices for animal husbandry, animal care, and welfare. They also organize conservation efforts that are on the ground, and they engage the public in programs. One of theirs is Frog Watch USA, that they bring attention to the need of conservation for amphibians. Now that you have a brief understanding of what animal conservation is, let me provide some more background information. As explained on globalissues.org, the conservation of ecosystems and the species who inhabit them helps to maintain the natural balance of those ecosystems. A report from WWF, which is a global conservation organization which is referenced on globalissues.org, suggested that the pressure that humans have exerted on the earth since 1970 has nearly doubled. In addition, that report noted that the natural resource that we depend on have declined by 33% in that same time. Animal conservation as an abstract concept is extremely desirable, but it takes a lot of work to balance the needs of those species along with the needs of a growing human industrialized population. Primates are particularly affected and therefore require extreme conservation efforts. A report by the International Primatological Society referenced on globalissues.org found that 50% of our primates are in danger of extinction. In that report, it noted that the potential causes of this extinction include habitat destruction, hunting primates for bushmeat, and illegal wildlife trade. Specifically, mountain gorillas mountain gorilla numbers are dangerously low and in need of conservation efforts, according to the International Gorilla Conservation Program, which is also referenced on globalissues.org. I work in a zoo and hope to continue working in zoos to educate the public on wildlife and why it's so important. Not only does wildlife provide great intrinsic value to each and every one of us, but it also has great extrinsic value in biodiversity, or in terms of biodiversity, ecosystem balance, and ecotourism. Now that you know the details of animal conservation, let me explain why it's important for our future. Active participation in animal conservation requires an awareness of species unlike ours. Species that have been affected by our need for energy and resources are rescued, and education is provided to prevent that from happening again. Where habitats have become ravaged by our expanding human footprint, conservation aims to either move those species to protected areas or create more protected areas in which they already inhabit, and just protect them from extinction in general. Animal conservation can change the way people live, the way we interact with wildlife, and the way we work. Based on what we learned about conservation, we can make decisions that are considerate of the needs of wildlife. In conclusion, let me remind you of the importance of animal conservation and what it means for our society. As a reminder, I discussed 3 concepts. First, I discussed what animal conservation is. Second, I discussed why it's important to our culture. And third, I discussed how it affects our future. Through animal conservation, we can ensure the future of threatened and endangered wildlife for future generations. Thank you for listening.
Yay.
You have to pan back.
Okay, we're panning. Wait, I'm showing your shoes.
Oh.
Showing your
I
shoes.
am wearing shoes.
You are wearing shoes. And if it counts, we have 2 more less than engaged audience members.